please welcome Manitoba Agriculture's Vikram Bisht, who will provide an update on the growing season, specifically in the significant market of Manitoba, insights into pests and diseases in the province, and a look forward into 2025. Vikram, over to you.
Good morning, everyone, and good afternoon to people in the East. Thanks to SmartSmart for organizing this potato summit and your invitation for this meeting. I will get into my talk right away. Here, Victoria had given a all Canada information. I will just give a very brief Manitoba perspective on the production and the productivity. Here you see that since 2021, we have had a good increase in the acres, and the processing needs were mainly responsible for this. Our productivity has increased to a maximum of 372 hundredweight, and it has been mainly due to increased irrigation, improved agronomy, and pest management. Of course, the newer varieties are also playing a big role. For the amount of rainfall that we have had in 24, I think our 362 hundredweight is a fairly good performance for Manitoba. Since our diseases and pests are so weather dependent, I thought it'll be important to just share what our weather has been. So our planting started on 22nd of April. By 20th of May, 90% of our planting was done. And during this period, the rainfall in different places in the province was 120 to 245% of the normal. Our soil profile that you can see here has been generally wet early in the spring, and it has played a role in some of the issues that we had early in the season. First emergence was on May 21. On June 5th, we had 50% of our fields emerged at 50% level. Here's the rainfall. And from this graph, you can see the normal is in the black in both. I'm representing only Carberry and Winkler. There are many other sites that we monitor, and the rainfall would be ranging somewhere in between. So our rains were right from the beginning above normal to the end of the season. In Carberry, it was to the end about 34% higher than the normal, whereas in Winkler, it was about 90% higher than the normal. You will note that in 2021, we had really severe drought, and we had heat. So that played a big role in some of our diseases like verticillium. Here are the few photographs that you can see of how much rain we had. Frequent rains in May and June. In many cases where we had tile drainage, it was very good, very helpful. Because of the wet fields, many of the field operations like weed management was hindered and delayed into July. Here's the heat. And you would note here, I have 2021 showing very high temperatures, and we had the number of days which were greater than 30 degrees Celsius from 2022 to 24, and 2021 was the highest. It cooled down in 22, which was about normal. And then we had warm conditions in 23, 24 was moderate. And you can see the number of days which were 30 degrees plus for 2 days and over is much higher in 2021. And because of this wet conditions, there were many fields which were wet for quite some time. And it is expected that you would have seed rot issues. And here you can see some seed rotting and some blackleg that is here, and some of the leaves and petioles showing the disease. In most cases, they were lactobacteria, and this fortunately did not become a huge issue. Late blight is one of the diseases of big concern all over Canada, and we also find that it requires a lot of monitoring. In Manitoba, we have a forecasting program where we have 26 permanent weather stations, and they are used with the wisdom and Tomcast models for the forecasting. We also have used the passive spore traps spread around in Manitoba in 15 to 17 spots. Spore trapping is a tool. It is not the end all. It does not replace field scouting. So that is extremely important to note. And here is the disease risk values that we had in mid to late August, showing that we had high risk conditions, but in the absence of the spores, we did not have disease. So the disease triangle was not completed. So here you see there was no lead blight spores trapped in our spore traps. We had lead blight reported from our neighboring provinces or states. And here is the information. Ontario reported in July. Wisconsin reported in late August, and Minnesota again in late August. But fortunately, the winds were not coming our way. So basically, when we monitored, we had no reports in 2024, but it also is basically 7 years of no lead blight in the province. And the forecasting helps in you can say, disease management or strategies of fungicide usage. So here are the other details, and hopefully next year also we have it clean. So here is lead blight. I find it really funny, and I can't answer this question. Many students ask, lead blight, why is it called lead blight? Because it shows up anytime. And why is it called early blight when it usually shows up late? Anyway, that's slightly on the lighter side. Okay, we noticed early blight in the province in early July. It was from moderate to very high levels. There was significant difference between varieties in the severity. Russet Burbank, our main variety, was showing generally low severity. The early maturing varieties, as expected, have been showing more disease. Many of the isolates that we have from our province have been found to be resistant to the azoxystrobin QOIs and the SDHI fungicides, example, Boscalid. There are probably newer studies needed to update the uh, status of the resistance on the early blight Alternaria solani. Now here's one of the photographs from the old one. Here is the azoxystrobin showing some control, but not much. And the Boscalid is controlling. So it's a sensitive isolate. And here we have some insensitive isolates. And azoxystrobin again had, you can say, intermediate reaction. The next disease of importance for Manitoba is the potato early dying complex. And this is going to be an important for the coming few years. This is an endemic disease in our province, and high temperature and low soil moisture are contributing factors. Verticillium dahliae, along with Coleotrichum, that is the black dot, are the main culprits in Manitoba. We do not have the root lesion nematode, so we are lucky as far as the nematode presence is concerned. So because it is endemic, we are expecting to see it every year. However, 2024, because of wet conditions and generally I found that there was lower incidence and severity in many of the fields which were more prone to the early dying. And so this disease, we had checked that there was in our surveys, we had done some soil tests for the presence of the levels of inoculum in the field, and we noticed higher the level of inoculum, the more disease we had, higher disease severity it was. So this was done by PCR, and Mario and Scott were partners in this research. Here we had seen that it is important to be able to identify what level of contamination or inoculum load is in a field. And that is basically going to help decide which varieties you can plant in that area to reduce losses. And here is an example. We had planted russet Burbank and Clearwater in the same circle. And here you can see the difference. The incidence was significantly different and the severity was really different. And we had slightly better yields, maybe not significant, but good enough per acre. Here is one of the other ways that Manitoba growers have now started using biofumigation. It has shown some good results in some farms, but planning ahead is very important so that you can plant the mustards in time so that they can have good biomass development. Here we see the shredding of the mustards, and soon after it is incorporated, leaving no time between the two operations. Now, here is a very clear example how highly prone fields can show different results. Russet Burbank in a field here showing really good early dying, whereas another field of Ranger, which is known, you can also have Clearwater russet, and here's the mustard biofumigation. And this is drone photos, so clearly shows the difference. Here, black dot is another important disease that we have in our province. It is becoming an increasingly important disease for us. The inoculum survives in the crop residue, and that is probably going to spread to other areas when the conditions are favorable. The fungus is a weak pathogen, but once it gets the disease gets more severe under stress conditions. Here is a field which shows very high levels of black dot, which can be easily recognized by seeing the whitish color of many of these stems. So you can tell it is along with verticillium wilt, black dot is playing a role here. There is fair amount of variability in the fungicides in their sensitivity. The sensitivity of many isolates that we had collected from Manitoba, and some fungicides work very well, the others don't, which is expected. I had tried some late blight fungicides and tried to see if the late blight and the black dot could be controlled with the same fungicide in the same application, spraying early in the season. So here you can see that Fostal cancer, Manzate, and even Bravo are not very effective, whereas Quadris, Avito, Reason, Headline, the strobilurians have been fairly effective. Switch is not a registered product, but it is registered for the Collator trichum and other crops, so I wanted to test it out. Here is another disease of concern for Manitoba, and here you can see the root galls. Here you have the lesion, and here the spore balls. PMTV was first noted in Maine or reported in 2000, 2001, and then reported officially in or published in 2003. But since then, there have been reports from Colorado, New Mexico, Idaho, Washington, Oregon, North Dakota, and I just heard recently from Minnesota. In Canada, 3 places have reported on this disease, and they are doing research work on this problem. The potatoes, the powdery scab fungus is a vector for the mop top virus, and it develops sprang. So directly, the powdery scab is a visual surface blemish, but it is the virus that does most of the damage. In field trials, we found that the root galls and percentage tubers were different, significantly different between varieties. And when we stored some of these harvested tubers in the storage, we found that from December to June, the intensity and the incidence of sprang had increased. So this work will continue in the province. Storage tubers, monitoring of the storages is an important aspect, and when the conditions are moist and warm in August, September, then we can expect fair amount of issues. Here you have a soft rot called Clostridium, and then here we have leek, the pink rot, and then a few other diseases, including dry rot. The Tuber diseases seen in our storages basically are the pink, pythium leak, soft rot. And here's one particular storage where it was we on this, after discussing with the grower, it was found that the field was very wet and it was fairly warm, and the harvested temperature was 62 Fahrenheit plus. And when you harvest wet, there's a chance that some of the tubers get infected because the inoculum is in the field. So we have had some issues here. So there's soft rot, dry rot, and then Clostridium rot. In Manitoba, now it has become a practice to have post-harvest treatment or in-field treatment for late blight control. And here you can see that the results are so obvious. On the right side, we have tubers showing some rot, whereas on the left side, you can see that the potatoes are still clean. So I am a firm believer of using phos acids in field or in post-harvest treatment. Now, getting to the pests of concern, insect pests. Here, aphids, Colorado beetles, and European corn borers have been on the top of the list, but there are other insects which do crop up once in a while. The aphids on potatoes have direct feeding impact when some places have huge numbers. That would be, however, a minor consequence. It is the virus transmission that becomes an important damage caused by the aphids. We do monitor the aphid types also, and here I have presented here that green peach aphid, if the efficiency is 1, potato aphid, the other type is 0.3 to 0.7, buckthorn 0.3, and most other aphids, including soybean aphid, would be in the level of 0.1. So you need 10 soybean aphids to be equivalent to transmission of one green peach aphid. We have, suction traps, and we have pan traps put in the fields. And this has been helpful, I hope, for our growers in scheduling their insecticide applications. Here you can see the virus-infected plant. There is a significant difference in production in the infected versus healthy plants, and similar story here. This is the numbers that we have been tracking since 2012. I have given only the 2019 to 2024. In 2022, the numbers trapped in 8 sites was about a peak of 1,565 and 1,300 or 1,400. But in 23, the number had gone down significantly. And in 24, the numbers were even lower. But there is a twist to this story that I'll show you here. Here in 23, when our numbers were medium, not too high, our numbers of green peach aphid and the potato aphid trapped were very, very high. In 24, the numbers were around 13 to 10 different dates, and this is the combination of all the 8 sites. So we were basically getting 1 green peach aphid per potato site. that we were monitoring. Here is the combination of just the green peach aphid, 12 in 22, 228 in 2023, and in 24 we had, you can say, 27 only, but it is the late surge that was trapped. That was in basically end of August. By third week, normally our crops are terminated, but some fields were still having green potatoes at that time, and that was because the sizing was still, some more size was still needed. So it has been similar story of very high numbers of total aphids and the green peach aphid in New Brunswick and PEI, and this may have shown up in their seed performance virus-wise. In Manitoba, we had some lots where in the 2024, I could see up to 15% of the plants with infection. And this is a photograph of a field where we had so many infected plants. Even this may be infected, but you can see is high. Colorado potato beetles is another issue that we have in the province. We have resistance to various neonics being used, but it is not all over the province. We have 2 generations almost per season, and because of the delayed egg hatching, we have multiple stages at the same time in the crop. And so sometimes it is difficult to schedule the insecticide application if needed. Here, by mid-June, we were noticing that the beetles were quite active, and in a meeting recently, there were people talking about cull piles being an important thing to manage. They not only can create risk for late blight, but also for the, you can say, beetles. And I have seen beetles being there. So there's another one. The beetles have shown fair amount of resistance in southern part of Manitoba, but not in others. However, our other areas are having to spray foliar applications 1 or 2 times, which is more than normal. Dr. Narona will be talking about the beetles, Colorado beetles, and so I left out the further details. Here, European corn borer is another big problem. It used to be a big problem. 2016 was a big issue for us. You can recognize the disease or the problem with the presence of tops only wilting, rest of the plant is good. And then you have the frass and borer injury. We monitor using delta traps and using the Iowa strain.
Hi. I'm so sorry, Vikram. I know we have so many more slides to get to, but we do want to make sure, as it's currently 1:04 p.m. and we have about 60 seconds left and about
Okay,
one
I
question.
will sleep. Okay, so
Of course.
ECBs are a problem, and they spread the blackleg disease. And what to expect for 2025? Endemic diseases like verticillium wilt and black dot will be there, and you can probably read it in your presentation that will be shared. Late blight, hopefully we don't find. And then aphid populations will continue to be concerned. CPB will be increased and ECB probably not so much of an issue.
All right, and this attendee wants to know before we say goodbye, elaborating on why CPB is a more prominent pest in some growing regions across Canada than others, and is it related to climate? We'll remind this attendee that we do have a session specifically on CPB, but Vikram, if you could just offer some clarity for this attendee.
I think it may be related to the climate, but the pest is quite tolerant to many different conditions. It is also because of the use of different insecticides or repeated use. We have different levels of insecticide usage, use pattern, and so it probably is related more to the insecticide resistance.
Okay.
So I also produce weekly newsletters. If you wish to subscribe, please use this.
Yes, definitely best to follow Vikram and his newsletter. Stay up to date on everything Manitoba potatoes. Thank you very much, Vikram, for that update and for all your insights.